India Limited. So the format of the session is as follows. We've got about an hour where Mr. Samir Kumar will share his insights and experience, and followed by his session, we will have a Q&A if time permits, and probably we'll take a couple of questions. While the sessions are on, in case the participants have any specific questions, you may choose to write your questions on the Q&A panel, which you can see on the right of the screen. Thank you so much. Welcome aboard. Over to you, sir.
Okay, so, I'm, first of all, thank you, Sain, for having me. I'm having a small technical issue, so I'm going to log out and log in again. Just give me a few minutes. Sorry about this.
Sure, sir. We request the participants to put up with us for a few seconds, please. The speaker is just going to join us. He has some technical issues, so kindly have some patience. He'll join us soon.
Okay, so I'm back. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about this. Some of the perils of working from home with, I guess, poor technical support to myself. But first of all, thanks, Sain, for hosting me for this seminar, and good afternoon, everybody who's joined this. The topic for the seminar today is cash flows and how to manage cash flows at such times. The format we decided was I'll speak for a few minutes, share some thoughts of mine, talk about what some of our portfolio companies are doing, and then take questions. And I think some questions have already come in. I've had a chance to see some questions that were sent across earlier, but we can then get into question and answers. The objective would be to try and answer most of the questions that you have instead of me just giving a monologue. So I'm going to keep my monologue as short as I possibly can. Before I get started on this topic, I want to say that these are times that I have never seen before in my life. So I'm guided by these lines from the Upanishads. They go, Naham manye suvedeti no na vedeti vedachaha. And though they were written for a different context, they mean, I do not think I know it well, nor do I think I do not know it. Obviously, it's not referring to COVID and its impact. It's referring to something else in the Upanishads. But I think they are a very clear indicator of my mind at this point in time. So I'm going to try and share whatever I know, try and answer questions to the best of my ability. But I want all of you to know that these are unusual times. These are strange times. These are times that many of us have not seen before. So with that caveat, let's get started with what I had to talk. Clearly, cash flows are like blood flows for an organization. And we all know what happens when blood stops flowing within the body. I think it's a very similar situation with cash flows. So if the severe lockdown that we've had, and if you read about it, it's you read that India had one of the most severe lockdowns compared to any country in the world. We really shut down almost everything. We were in a curfew-like situation for almost 3 weeks. In that scenario, cash flow for a lot of companies got affected. Now, some got more affected than others. Some came down virtually to zero. We all know airlines didn't fly, so they were virtually zero, or except for cargo and things like that. Taxis couldn't fly, so they were virtually zero. Autos and so on were virtually zero. But the impact has not been even or similar across sectors. So while some of the sectors that I talked about just now, the hospitality, the tourism, travel, they got very badly affected. Uh, some sectors saw counter-cyclical effect to their business. We saw uh, video calls like this, whether WebEx, Zoom, Google Meet, just go through the roof. I guess there was no other way for people to communicate and continue with whatever little business they could. So that saw a very counter-cyclical trend and a big increase. Online education, because schools stopped working, but classes continued. So online education saw a huge spike in usage in terms of number of people using it and so on. So we saw some counter-cyclical trends. We saw a lot of businesses that did get affected. And how long it would continue, how long will its impact continue? These are questions in everyone's mind. Clearly, the lockdown is beginning to lift in most cities. I don't know how many of you are from Bombay, which is quite badly affected, but I'm from Bangalore, which has so far, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed, so far has got off pretty lightly. I think in all 250, 260 positive cases, 7 or 8 deaths. And by and large, we don't feel the impact of COVID from a hospital pressure standpoint and so on. But we don't know what's going to happen. And that's the whole uncertainty of this scenario. We don't know if cases are going to rise, if mortality is going to rise in coming times. And therefore, nobody knows how long the effects of this pandemic will play out, even after the lockdown is lifted. And I think for most of our startups, that's the big question in their heads. We've seen downturns before. I've personally seen the 2001 bust, the dot-com bust. I've lived through as a VC the 2008, 2009 collapse when Lehman Brothers collapsed and the financial crisis happened. But in all of those, the cause was very clear. The effect of that cause, you knew how long it would last. You knew what to do. You knew which business had no hope and you would give up. You knew which businesses had hope. You knew a lot of things to navigate through those downturns. Here, I think the uncertainty is one of the big issues that's affecting all of us. But so I've painted as depressive a scenario as I could. But I think as startups and as investors who work in the startup world, we have to move ahead. We have to look positively. We have to see, given what we know and given what we see and given what we don't know, what do we do? And so clearly, so I'm going to talk about what we have told our startups and give examples of what some of our startups have begun to do. But clearly, everybody knows that you've got to survive. If you don't survive, then there's nothing else that matters. To revive, first survive, and then figure out revival. So if you're dead, it's all okay. It's all done. You don't have anything to worry about. You can go home, start a new life, do whatever else. Our big message to startups, our own portfolio companies has been, therefore, please conserve cash. And it's easier said than done. Everyone, I'm sure all of you know that you have to conserve cash because without cash, there is no business and there's no survival. But the dilemma that most of us face is how much do I cut and where do I cut? And that's one question where I'll try and give some insights. It's not an easy question to answer because if I cut too deep, then when things return, I may not be well placed to come back into the market. My competitors may just run ahead of me. And if I don't cut too deep, I'll run out of cash. And how deep is good enough would be clear if I knew how long this whole business would last. But given that we don't know how long this will last, we don't know what its effect is on demand. We know that people have been laid off. We know that people unemployment has risen. So clearly money in people's hands is less. We know that the economy is suffering. This may be a recessionary year for us. So we don't know how demand will come back. And if demand doesn't come back, then will people have the resources to purchase our products and our solutions? We don't know. And therefore, this is a question that has to be asked every day and answered every day. How deep is deep? How deep is not deep enough? How shallow is not deep? And how deep is not shallow? So I think these are questions that as an entrepreneur, you need to answer every day. Of course, the guiding principle is cut deep, cut once, and then keep restoring back uh, as soon as you can, as soon as you see signs of things coming back. It is very demoralizing for people in a company if they see cuts every day. So if today I say that, I'm going to cut X, and then a week or fortnight later, I say, oh, I'm going to cut more. And then another few weeks later, I say, I'm going to cut more. It's very demoralizing for people. It's far better to cut today as much as I think is needed and as maybe a little more. And then as things start coming back, keep restoring those cuts back. So what we advised our startups is, obviously, if you have people that you were anyway going to ask to let go for performance or other reasons, you should take those actions sooner rather than later. Clearly, if you were hiring for growth, pause those hirings. Of course, we've asked people to honor all commitments. So if you had rolled out an offer to somebody, we've advised all our startups to allow those people to come on board. We ourselves have hired, and we will have a person joining us on 1st of June. We had investments that we had committed to before this pandemic hit us. We completed the first of those two investments in April, and one has just got announced today, Euler. So for us, clearly keeping commitments is important. In this business, reputations are built over the long term, and therefore for us, it's very important to honor the commitments we've made. And as entrepreneurs, for you, it's important to make sure you survive so that when things return, you are alive and can come back and rebuild your business. So I'll now come to what some of our startups have done and what we've advised. Given the lack of visibility, we told people don't sack people unnecessarily. Performance and other issues, that's fine. Don't hire new people, but if you made offers, get them on board. So our startups have taken very severe salary cuts. Where revenues have come down to virtually zero, they've taken as much as 50 to 60% salary cuts. And where revenues haven't come down, haven't come down so much, they've taken lesser salary cuts. Even in counter-cyclical businesses, they've tightened costs because we don't know what demand will be. We don't know how much money will be in people's hands. And given this uncertainty, it is better to be prudent and control costs where you can control, and bring yourself or enable yourself to be in a stronger position if demand is strong, comes back more than what you expected. You will be in a much better position if you have cash. This is also a good time for some of our well-funded companies to, even if revenues have come down significantly, to go back, talk to their customers, build deeper relationships. And if you have cash, then you can work out arrangements with your customers such that your competition, which may not be so well funded, will find it difficult uh, to come back or hit the market with. So the first thing we've told startups is try not to lay off people, cut salaries. And here people have led by example. People, our founders have taken 50, 60% pay cuts. We've read about some companies like Make My Trip and so on, where founders have taken 100% pay cuts, no salaries for the full year is what they've said they will do. And these are some of the methods that you can use to make sure that your cash lasts and you come out alive on the other side. Uh, One question that a lot of our founders asked us was, what is the runway that I should plan for? I'll do cost cutting such that what runway do you think we should keep? And while that's a very hard question to answer given all the uncertainty, our advice to most of our startups was build yourself in a position that you see a 15 to 18 month clear cash runway. Assuming that business will come to maybe 70, 80% of what it was in Jan. Jan we take as the pre sort of pandemic month. So what your business was in January, assume that you will slowly build up to 70 to 80%, not 100% of that business. Forget about the growth that you were seeing. So many of our companies were growing 60, 70, 80% year on year. We are saying forget about growth. Assume that from where you've dipped, you will slowly come back to maybe 70 or 80% of what your business was. So if your business in January was here and today it's come down here, assume that it will come to maybe 70 or 80% over time. With that assumption, which is quite a stringent assumption, make sure that you have 15 to 18 months of cash so that you don't run out of cash. Now, the question that comes is why will they not be able to raise their next rounds of funding? And it's not that they will not be able to raise next rounds of funding. But what's happening with most investors is that our first attention, so I'll speak about ourselves. We have clearly honored the two term sheets that we had. One we closed in April and one we closed or got announced very recently, today itself. But our focus is now on our portfolio companies. So we are doing a very deep dive on our portfolio, or have done a very detailed analysis of all our portfolio companies, looked at those that, if the business is wiped out completely, like many restaurants and so on, although we don't invest in that sector, then if a business is running out of cash, there's no point supporting it if you're not sure how it will come back and when it will come back and so on. But for most of our businesses, especially in the tech space, they're not in the restaurant business. So most of them, the business will come back. Then we've had to look at, how much money would they need, assuming that, in 15, 18 months as well, investors don't start opening up their pockets, then we will have to support the companies. And therefore, how much money should we keep aside for supporting our current companies? And after having done that exercise, we're saying, okay, therefore, how much money do I have to make new investments? And I think all investors are going through that or have gone through that thought process. The numbers keep changing as more and more information comes. And overall, I would say that things are improving, not deteriorating from an outlook standpoint. But given that most investors have their focus on their current portfolio, chances of new companies getting funded by them are not that high. It's not that new companies won't get funded, so I don't want to create a wrong impression, but the probability of raising money, which is anyway a very low probability for most startups, becomes even lower than what it was earlier. So you don't want to gamble with that scenario. So we are saying that plan such that things come back to normal in 15 to 18 months time. In 15 to 18 months time, assume that people will be behaving in the same manner that they were behaving in January and before that. Plan your cash flows and your cash situation such that you can survive till then, and with assumptions not of growth but of 70 to 80% of your original business. Now, if things turn out better than they are, that's great. There's more power to you. You have more cash. You can do many other things. You can hire. You can step on growth. You may raise money before 15 months. But we are talking of planning for tough scenarios because of the uncertainty. So with that, I've said most of what I wanted to say. Yeah, I just have one more point to make. This one more point I had was that there are two types of investors, one who believe in growth at all cost, and the other set of investors like us who believe that businesses need to be sustainable. Obviously, every business won't be sustainable on day one, but in a 3, 4, 5-year time frame, the company needs to be able to build profits, to make profits, be sustainable, and stand on its own feet. So we come from the second school of thought, that is, businesses need to be sustainable. And in this scenario, therefore, our advice is even stronger that, cut your coat to your cloth with the assumptions I talked about so that you become sustainable, start investing for growth after things come back to normal or the outlook or the visibility that we have improves. So with that, I've finished whatever I wanted to say, and I'm happy to now take questions. So
So we have a question from Anirvan. He's raised his hand. Can somebody unmute him?
Hello. Hi, Samir. Can you hear me?
yes.
Samir, I'm Anirvan from Haystack Analytics. We met at Intel. On the healthcare sector, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, it's a precarious position also on the lines what you said. I mean, we don't want to cut very deep because we see that there could be an upside to this, but then there would be costs around R&D and hiring. Any thoughts on the healthcare sector, startups like us in the healthcare space?
So what exactly do you do, Anirvan?
No, we do diagnostics and genomics.
Okay. Yeah, correct. You were the TB guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, I'm not a soothsayer, and therefore I really don't know what's going to happen. I've sort of painted the picture of the outlook being very hard and very tough and very foggy and not visible. But my own sense is that the healthcare sector is one that will see a much faster recovery, a much better outlook. It's something that people can't avoid. So I can avoid going out, uh, by plane or for a holiday. I can avoid leisure travel. I can avoid staying in holiday hotels. I can avoid eating out in restaurants. I can avoid so many other things like that. But I can't avoid seeing a doctor or doing my diagnostics or taking my medicines and so on and so forth. So my own sense is that the healthcare sector will see a faster revival than other sectors. But but the specific answer, really, you'll have to ask yourself this question every day and talk to your customers and see what they're saying and see what the money is that they have and see their purchasing power, and then make a call on, are you cutting too deep or should you cut more or whatever. But at this point in time, assume that, the assumptions that we have told our portfolio companies, you need a 12, 15 to 18-month runway. Your business will come slowly back to 70% of what it was in January. With that assumption, cut your costs such that you can last for 15, 18 months. So your cash can last for 15, 18 months. And, cutting costs doesn't necessarily mean sacking people. It means taking salary cuts. It means rent reductions. This work from home, that's a point that I should make. This work from home has worked very well for some of our companies. It's a very painful thing. I couldn't, I was on this call from 3:45, but at 4:01 I had to log out because my laptop misbehaved, and so on. So, these are issues that work from home is creating for a lot of people. Also, distancing, virtual, you need to see people face to face and so on, which is very hard with this work from home criteria. But a lot of companies, large companies, and some of our startups are saying that a certain portion of their employees, they will enable a permanent work from home. They will rotate the work from home, specific people who work from home, but 25% of their workforce will not come back to the office on a permanent basis. So let me explain. So if I have 1,000 people, now I will have 750 people in the office, and I'll rotate so that everyone comes to office, but at a given time, there'll be only 700 or 500 or 600 people. And therefore, real estate costs, many of them are shedding right now. They're giving up office space right now and saving on costs. They're saving on salaries. They're saving on hosting. A lot of these large hosting companies, Amazon and so on, realizing that startups have been badly affected, are giving credits, saying that, if you were spending let's say $20,000 a month on hosting, here is $120,000 of credit. So for 6 months you don't pay me, or for 6 months you pay me half, and the other half you can continue to utilize, and so on and so forth. So you have got to, as a startup, look at all innovative ways by which you can get your costs under control. It's not just salary and manpower.
Thanks, Samir. We have a question from Rohan. He asked, are cash flow considerations important in deciding if and how to pivot?
Yes, so I think it's very important in deciding how to pivot. If you don't see an outlook, like I said, restaurants, now I don't know, I'm not a food investor or whatever, but if you feel that restaurants are going to take very long to come back, or people are not going to start eating out in restaurants in a comfortable manner, or the distancing rules that they're going to bring in will mean that restaurants are unprofitable, and if you're in the restaurant business, then you will have to pivot, and you'll have to take into consideration that demand in your business is going to take too long to come back, and your cash may not last there. And then what do you pivot into? You have certain competencies and skills. Can you use those competencies and skills to pivot into something adjacent or something uh, different that potentially can come back earlier? So yes, cash flow considerations or future cash flow outlook plays a very important role in what you will pivot, whether you'll pivot and what you'll pivot into.
Okay, there's another question which came in. Can the cash flow strategy be different for a deep tech company versus a hardware or a software company? It's a very generic question, but can it be different, and what could be the?
So I don't see a big difference overall. I mean, you have to, whether you're hardware, whether you're software, whether you're deep tech, you have to focus on survival. That is very clear. Uh, Now you take the two companies that we are just doing, right? One that got announced today and so on. Um, it's a hardware company. The factories were closed for 2 months. The factories have just restarted a few weeks ago. Um, they've got money. They've just raised a lot of money. But will they go back to the same business plan that they had before this pandemic? Very clearly, no. So our message to them, even before we put the money in, was, yes, you're getting the money, but rejig your business plan so that your money will last at least 12 months more than what you had anticipated it to last, and so on. And in a hardware business, for example, that will mean the inventory levels that you were planning to hold, you will hold lower. The R&D expenses that you are making, maybe they will slow down and take a longer period to develop. So I don't see a difference in hardware or software. You'll have to look at your elements of cost depending on your business and make sure you conserve there. But another counter-cyclical business, I mentioned a few, but I forgot to mention another one in our portfolio, which is toys. That business saw 3x increase in demand after this lockdown because kids were at home with nothing to do and parents had to buy toys to engage them.
There's another question which says, should we focus on growth or profitability at this stage?
Very clearly profitability. If you're dead, you can't grow. And when I say profitability, I'm not saying you will become profitable overnight. I mean, if your revenues are zero, it's hard to become profitable. But I'm interpreting the question of profitability as conserving cash. And very clearly in my head, there is no dilemma. If you're dead, nothing else matters. So conserve cash at this point and don't focus on growth. Anyway, your customers are not buying. So what growth will happen? However, if you're in a counter-cyclical business, if you're in online groceries, if you're in educational toys, if you are in video conferencing, if you are in online education, if you are in e-commerce of essentials, then you will probably double down because essentials are not going away. But otherwise, you will just cut costs and forget about growth for the time being, for this period.
Okay. Thank you. There's another question which is generic, which says, what mistakes do we avoid when the company is on a nascent stage, that is the startups, what kind of mistakes one needs to avoid, especially when it comes to spending the money for business?
Like you said, Ganga, it's a generic question and it will need a generic answer. A lot of us, when we get funded, we treat it as a sign of success that we've arrived. Funding is only a milestone in a journey. It's a milestone that helps you to achieve the goal that you set out for in your journey. So the mistake that some people make by thinking that funding is arrival is they start spending as if they've arrived. So you suddenly see fancy offices, you see hiring of expensive employees, salaries take a quantum leap. If earlier I was working hard to sell my company to people to get them to join me, now I throw money at them to get them to join me. So these are common mistakes that I've seen in my experience. Nothing unique about the pandemic or COVID, but these are all problems that if we avoid, when downturns or bad times hit us, we are much better placed than many other companies. Yeah.
Okay. There's another interesting question which says, which is a better situation, conserve cash for next 6 months or and maintain current burn, or hire a good sales guy to do business?
So that's a good question. If you are in one of those sectors that I mentioned, and I may have skipped some sectors, I mentioned the counter-cyclical sectors where demand has increased, uh, and where your customers have money to pay you for that increased demand, then it would make sense to hire a sales guy, double down on business, and continue to grow it. But I would think that those businesses are maybe 20-30% of most businesses. 70% have seen a hit in business, and for those 70, I would say it is better to conserve cash.
Okay, thank you so much. Now coming back to, we've talked about COVID scenario, how to maintain the cash flows, etc. So there are some questions which are coming, optimistic question, I would say, in terms of how does one manage cash flows post-COVID?
Yeah. And so, Ganga, I'll answer this question. Also, there are some hands that I can see getting raised. So I don't know how those, whether they are
Yeah,
questions
so
or just.
sure, sir. So I request the host to help them through the questions, please.
Okay, but let me answer the optimistic question, and it's good that optimistic questions are coming. So yes, this will pass for sure. We shouldn't get too depressed. I started off with very depressive thoughts and depressive sayings. So obviously, it's good to balance it with clearly this will pass. The 2000.com bust passed, the 2008-9 Lehman and financial crisis passed, the 13-14 funding crisis passed, and so this will also pass. We expect that things will bounce back in a much stronger manner once demand comes back. So the key uncertainty in my whole mind at this point in time is what is going to happen to demand. As I said, I have never seen a lockdown scenario where nothing happens for almost 3 weeks except for essentials, and then slowly things start opening up and so on. I have never seen a recession in my growing up life, and I'm those who can see my hair, it's white. I have worked for 35 years in business and industry. I think this is the first time we'll see a recession, which is negative growth. So what does negative growth do to sentiment? What does it do to buying sentiment? What does it do to people's willingness to spend their money? Are they going to be so worried that they'll keep the money to themselves, save it, or will they still indulge in things that they used to indulge in the past? So these are uncertainties for which answers are not very clear. So the general guidance, and because it's a general question, is yes, things will come back. I'm saying that plan for 70% to 80% of your Jan business coming back over a period of time. Plan with that scenario that you have 15 to 18 months cash. If things come back faster, if let's say in July you see your Jan business back, and in August you see 110% of your Jan business, then by all means start investing back, and you know that your cash flows are, which you had planned for 15 months or 18 months, are going to last you forever, and therefore you can start investing in growth again. But play it by the year. Ask this question every day that you wake up.
Thank you. I think that's really insightful for all of us. So I'll take the questions from the audience. So Sanjeev Patni has raised his hand. So can you ask your question, please, Sanjeev?
Samir, my name is Dr. Patni, and I look after an incubation center And time and again we come across this kind of question from the startups who are working around without, some of them without being funded, but with their own cash. So, some saved by from their previous jobs, or some got from their parents or wherever, and so they are they have some bit of cash. But the point and problem around here is that in absence of any kind of clear visibility, what would you advise to these kind of startups? Would they go about spending this kind of hardened cash into further development and further marketing, or just conserve the cash and wait for the storm to pass? I mean, it's a kind of dilemma, but this kind of question often comes to me, and I really don't know what is the exact answer to this.
So clearly, I would say unless you're in a sector which is counter-cyclical, demand has got suppressed in all other sectors. So investing into marketing at this point in time, I would not advise on it. So for instance, we have a company in the travel space. We have two companies in the travel space. One is a consumer company. It used to spend on marketing. Discretionary travel became zero. Business travel became zero. So their revenues became zero. They were not allowed to run cabs. They cut back all their marketing, apart from other cost-cutting measures that they took, including rent and hosting and salary cuts and so on. They just made marketing zero, because if there's no demand, then spending on marketing is not required. Now, if the question was, do I invest into product development? I would say yes, continue to invest into product development. Don't increase those costs. In fact, decrease them. Take salary cuts across the board. And by the way, most employees in startups are very, very sympathetic of what is happening around them. And many of them are even grateful that startups have not laid them off. So salary cuts are they're not being viewed negatively in most companies or by most employees. And so therefore, cut salaries, continue to build out your product or service, but don't invest into marketing and other such things at this point in time, unless you're in a counter-cyclical industry.
All right. Thanks. I mean, my question was more around the development period, because while the product development is going on, with the conserving of cash is also required, probably with no kind of visibility of the market.
So, Sanjeev, you need to hold on, because he's still speaking. Yeah.
Sorry.
I think both of there was a cross communication between Mr. Samir Kumar and Sanjeev. So maybe I just thought you can just go parallel. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the kind of point I was trying to make.
Yeah. So I think, so we just missed the last few sentences of yours. If you could just recap it for the audience, please.
My last few sentences. So I was saying that I think my last few were, don't invest in marketing if you don't see demand. Unless you're in one of the counter-cyclical businesses, don't invest in marketing, and cut costs, continue product development, but with reduced salaries, so that whatever money you have, if you cut salaries 50%, it will last you double the time it would have lasted.
Sure. Thank you so much. So can we have one hands raised by Sumit Swaroop. So Sumit, would you like to ask your question, please?
Yeah, hi Sumit. This is Sumit Swaroop from QNew Labs. If you remember, we met a couple of times.
Yes.
Hi. My question was around, you said that, it's good to have cash for 15 to 20 months. As you know, we are targeting the international market. We were looking seriously at the US and Middle East markets. Do you have any view as to what is going on in those two markets versus India? And do you still see the 15 to 20 months there as well? Or is there some variation in the geographic distribution?
So Sumit, let me clarify that when I said 15 to 18 months, I said plan such that your cash lasts you for 15 to 18 months and you don't have to raise money before 15 to 18 months. That's what I said. I also said that assume that your business will come back to 70 to 80% of your Jan business over a period of time. So it's not that it will come back to 70 to 80% of your business after 15 months. It'll come back maybe in 6 months, 8 months, whatever. You can plan as conservatively, and then cut your costs so that your cash lasts for 15 to 18 months. But so I hope I've conveyed what I conveyed. In terms of US and Middle East, our advice to our startups is, unless you are doing ongoing business there, slow down. Don't make investments right now, because those are costly investments to make. And better to, don't hire sales guys if you are planning to hire, etc., etc. Make that cash last longer. Talk to your customers from here and try and close business in that manner.
Thank you, Samir.
Okay.
I can't hear anything.
Yeah. So I think there's some network here challenge here. So can we have the next question from Mr. Kishan Kishore, please?
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Kishan Kishore.
Yeah, so just wanted to understand. So from past 6 months, 6 to 7 months, I have been working on a blockchain-based mobility service. We wanted to enter the market by month of June or July, keeping the a few of the constraints and product constraints in mind. So as of now, we all know that mobility solutions at this point of time are badly hit. But is it should we go ahead with this thought more further ahead, because there will be a behavioral change in the customers who will be looking for social distancing, follow the shared mobility thing is not going to work that much. So do you think it's a good good sector to go ahead, still continue or pursue this opportunity?
So I'm not a sector expert, so it's hard to answer that question. But
From investor point of view.
Yeah, I'll just answer it from, we have one company that was into shared mobility in the B2B space, not B2C space. It was providing, or still is providing, employee transportation services. So they are assuming that it's going to be a tough return back to normal. And all their planning is happening around shared taxi travel is going to be lower than what it was in the past. And they're going on to exploring. Luckily, they have a lot of cash. So they had raised cash about 2 years back, and they've kept most of that cash because they run a very profitable operation and so on. So they are looking at other aspects of shared mobility, which are not shared cabs. For instance, in manufacturing plants, factories still run buses. Employees cannot work from home in a factory and so on and so forth. So they are looking at those areas and seeing if all the expertise that they're built in shared cabs can be translated to shared buses and things like that. So with that sort of background, I think you'll also have to think that if, yes, shared mobility, my view also is that, the Uber pool and the Ola share are not going to come back in a hurry. And is there some way your solution can get morphed or changed to address the different requirements?
So just add a small, if you can permit me for another 1 minute, adding one more question to that. So
Okay, go ahead, Kishan. Go ahead.
So basically, it was about multimodal transportation method, okay, where a platform would be built and right from bike taxi, to bounce like service, to cab, to buses, to metros, one particular platform where this all could be built up, and based on the customer behavior and the choice. So and similar platform in India doesn't exist as of now. Okay, so now we are building that particular same platform on the blockchain basis. So do you think, is this a kind of a solution which might be, an alternative to Uber share or Uber pool or something?
So I have no idea.
Okay.
Kishan, I have no idea at all. You should talk to your customers.
Yeah,
to
so
whom you would sell this
Kishan,
solution.
Sure.
yeah, so I request the participants to focus on the topic of the session, while you might get some insights on various other aspects as well. So can I request Ajay Kumar Chakraborty to raise his question, please?
Hello, good evening. Am I audible?
Yes.
Hello, am I?
Yes, you are.
Good evening. My question is, can we get a speculation like in which sectors government are likely to spend more, so that the startups can align with the government expenditure. Point one. Point two, there are various grants like BARAC big grants and then IIGP grants, and various type of hackathons and other things are there for which occasionally give funding for startups. So now in the coming scenario, what is likely to be the situation about them?
So again, Ajoy, I'm not an expert on this. Sign is well connected into this whole ecosystem of BIRAC and big grants and all that. Your question is better answered by them. And in terms of
Ajay,
government
first question.
spending, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Ajay Kumar, you can always write to Sign and get all the details.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
In fact, Sign is running a program called Kavach, which is actually on behalf of Government of India. They're giving out money and so on. But that's a separate thing. You should talk to Sign.
Yes, yes, I know that. But
Yeah,
I was
so
thinking about the
okay.
long term.
Yeah, so can I request Bipin Lokhande to ask a question, please?
Yeah, good evening. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, yes. Go ahead.
Actually, we are about to start our manufacturing, and anyways, our runway is now getting shortened and shortened day by day. Okay, and market is down. So in this post-COVID scenario, what should we be prepared to listen from our potential funders with whom we are in a discussion, in a midway discussion? Because we have completed 2-3 rounds with them, but now there is no communication from them. So what we should expect to listen from them?
I think the questions that will come in most investors' minds, where there were dialogues in the past, but dialogues have not finished, is what is the impact on your business? What has this 2.5-month lockdown or whatever lockdown 4.0 done to your business? What has it done to your customers? What has it done to their spending power? What has it done to potential demand in your business? And if you're able to answer that question with conviction that you think things are not affected or are going to get better, then I think your funding discussions will proceed. But if your business is impacted or likely to be impacted by what has happened, like I gave the example of restaurants, I gave the example of hotels, and even in restaurants and hotels, one is not sure that it's going to get impacted. The sense that most people have is that people, till a vaccine comes or till there's a cure, people will be scared to go out into crowded places and restaurants. So movies, malls are going to be affected. If your business is like that, then you'll find it hard to have a successful fundraise dialogue.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Samir. Can I request Raj Ashish to put his question across, please? Ashish.
Hey, thank you, Ganga. Hi, Shamir. This is Raj Ashish here. I'm one of the partners with Sanganak Labs. We are into horizontal platform technologies. I have shared a couple of questions there while they're there in the invite. What we are trying to find out is what are those KPIs by which any virtual VCs would be interested in measuring our product or services and how much they would be willing to give us the fund. This is point one. And
let me just address point one. I don't know what your business is, and therefore I don't have an answer to that question. Okay. You can write separately, if you want a specific answer, but since I don't know your business, it's very hard to answer that.
Right. So we are into horizontal platform technologies. So what we do is we build custom build open source storage. And slowly we are moving along with that to bring IP video conferencing as a solution where we can host these things as a surveillance system in the cloud. Did you understand?
So I think I don't know if I fully understood, but I think the answer to your question will come from your customers. So if you forget about VCs, VCs are not so important in this whole equation. If you talk to your customers and they say that your solution is, we'll continue to look forward to your solution, we are willing to pay the price, our business has not got affected, and therefore, we will buy what we were planning to buy, you should convey this with conviction to the VCs. And VCs will, while they are not always very smart, by and large, they will do their own independent work as well. And if they hear the same thing from the market, they will go ahead and fund you.
Yeah, but we haven't started reaching to the customer because we are very new. And now after this COVID, we have started working on that. So we need fund to start all that.
I think at this time, if you're not sure of what your demand is going to be, then the VC is going to be even less sure.
Yeah, I understand, but I have done enough research where CGPR is clearly saying that the market is definitely growing in the field of surveillance more than
And then
35%.
that research you should communicate with conviction to the investors. Then why will they not invest?
Brilliant. Thank you. That is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you, Samir. So there's one Melody Matthew. Can you ask your question? Melody Matthew.
Somebody has to unmute her.
Yeah. Yes, Melody, please ask your question.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So, what's the opportunity after COVID for the startups handling virtual reality and the augmented reality?
I don't see, so again, not an expert in that virtual reality and AR space, but I don't see such startups getting negatively affected by COVID. I don't see any reason why why demand for their solutions should not come back. In fact, if virtual reality improves a little in the way, the negatives of virtual reality, I think this whole online education, the whole online video conferencing and all can be enhanced with VR solutions. So that's my view. But of course, I'm not an expert, but I think that's a space that should not get negatively impacted.
Last question from Najma. Najma, can you ask your question, please? Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Najma. I am working on biomedical devices manufacturing of. I am in prototype stage. Can you just suggest me way ahead after this COVID about funding? Is there opportunities will be as usual as previous, or priority will be given only for COVID related activities?
No, funding will be as usual because COVID will go. So maybe in the short term, the next 2-3 months, maybe funding in the healthcare space may go more to COVID related stuff. But ultimately, my view is life will come back to normal. There will be a vaccine found. There will be a cure found. SARS and all disappeared, or we learned to live with it without any adverse consequences. So this whole COVID will be a bad memory a year from now. Funding for all other startups will be there, provided they have demand. There is a market. There are customers.
Thank you, Samir. I think that was the last question. Anybody else who has any question? Otherwise, I thought we are just on time to close. So Raj Ashish again has raised his hand. Do you have any specific question pertaining to the cash flows, please?
Yeah, I wanted to talk to or connect with Samir offline sometime. Is it possible?
Yeah,
it is. You can write a mail.
Yeah.
So can I have that email, or we can get?
We'll have that sent a little later. Post.
Thank you.
Okay. So assume we are done with the session. So with any last thoughts from you, sir, as we wind up?
So the last thoughts, maybe I'll just say in summary that these are tough times, but they will pass. We have seen downturns before, maybe not a downturn like this, but no downturn has remained forever. Someone sent a very nice WhatsApp forward, the time of the Spanish pandemic. They said, assume your grandfather was born in 1900, and then when he was 18 years old, something happened, and then the Spanish flu happened, and 50 million people died, and then World War I happened, then World War II happened, and by the time he's 75, something else happened. And I think in our lives, we have seen only good times, and this may be the first time where we are seeing a not so good time, but everything passes. So this will also pass. Fundamentals of business will remain. If you have a product or solution that delivers value to customers and which you can make at a cost less than the value that you deliver to customers, you have a sustainable business proposition, you have a good startup idea. Funding will remain. We ourselves have, we are at maybe 30-40% of the fund. We have 60% of the fund to invest. So a lot of people like us have cash. We want to deploy it. We feel that times like this are good times to invest because everyone has more time on their hands. Customers have more time. You have the ability to hire people, etc., etc. So short term, there's an impact. The advice for people who are in business already is to conserve cash flows. But from a long-term standpoint, I think all businesses will come back. There will be new businesses that will come. And I think things will come back better than normal in 12 to 18 months' time. But survive so that when things come back to normal, you're there. If you're dead, no good happens ever. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. I think it was truly an insightful session. Started off with a journey saying this is not something new that we've seen. We've seen it in the past through various other ways of factors affecting the economy. Believe me, all through the sessions, while you were giving some insightful thoughts, they were very optimistic as well. Thank you, sir, and thank you, participants. We almost got close to 100 participants attending your session today, sir. So I think by far it's very encouraging for all of us. So with this, with your kind permission, we would like to close the session. Thank you, participants. So Sign is actually hosting a Power Hour series, every week of the whole month of June. So very soon, next week, you will hear from us on another interesting topic and another good speaker. So keep in touch, stay safe. These are our coordinates because there were a lot of questions which had come up with regards to funding or prototype funding, so on and so forth. So all those people who are interested can reach out to Sign, visit our Sign website, write to our business team. They'll be more than happy to reach out to us. Thank you, Mr. Samir Kumar. Thank you on behalf of the entire Sign team. It was great having you on this webinar.
Thank you for having me, Ganga, and thank you for hosting it. And thanks to all the participants who joined.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Bye, everybody. Bye.